This is the Music History Today podcast for November the 12th. On today's show, Billboard starts a new chart, Katy Perry gets a fragrance, and Madonna releases Like a Virgin. First up, though, on this date in 1931, Abbey Road Recording Studios, probably most famous for being where the Beatles recorded a lot of their albums, and where Pink Floyd recorded their Dark Side of the Moon album, among many others, including an album by Oasis, opened as EMI Recording Studios in a former residential building on Abbey Road. It wasn't known as Abbey Road Studios until 1976 when they did a name change. In 1951, the musical Paint Your Wagon opened on Broadway at the Shubert Theater. In 1955, Billboard magazine started its Hot 100 singles chart. The Four Aces had the first number one single with Love is a Many Splendored Thing. In 1963, entertainer extraordinaire Mr. Robert Goulet married entertainer extraordinaire Miss Carol Lawrence. In 1969, entertainer extraordinaire Miss Julie Andrews married film director Blake Edwards in a private ceremony. In 1983, jazz trombonist Preston Jackson of the Preservation Hall Jazz Band passed away in New Orleans at the age of 81. In 1989, the musical Grand Hotel opened on Broadway at the Martin Beck Theater. In 1998, jazz pianist Kenny Kirkland, who played with, among many others, Sting, passed away from heart issues at the age of 43. In 2003, drummer Tony Thompson of the group The Power Station, and also more famously from the group Chic, passed away from kidney cancer at the age of 48, 3 days before his 49th birthday. In 2008, drummer Mitch Mitchell of the Jimi Hendrix Experience passed away in his hotel room in Portland, Oregon from natural causes at the age of 62. In 2010, Katy Perry diversified her income stream by launching a fragrance known as Purr. She launched it at Selfridges, a department store in London, England. In 2011, the opera Silent Night premiered at the Minnesota Opera House. It would go on to win the Pulitzer Prize for Music that year. And in 2021, Britney Spears' conservatorship was ended by a judge in Los Angeles, California, after almost 14 years. And on that same day, Taylor Swift released her short film, All Too Well. In award ceremonies that were held on November the 12th, in 2008, Kenny Chesney and Carrie Underwood were among the big winners at the Country Music Association Awards. In 2022, Dolly Parton won the $100 million Courage and Civility Award, which gives the award winner the money to distribute to the charities of their choice. The award winner does not get to keep the money for themselves. Sorry. Albums that were released on November the 12th include in 1964 when Marvin Gaye released Hello Broadway. In 1968, Neil Young released his self-titled album. In 1971, Genesis released Nursery Crime. In 1972, Daryl Hall and John Oates released Whole Oats. In 1974, Queen released their big album, Sheer Heart Attack. And Daryl Hall and John Oates were at it again, this time releasing War Babies. In 1982, the J. Giles Band released Showtime. In 1984, the Smiths released Hatful of Hollow. Duran Duran released Arena, and Madonna released her breakthrough album, Like a Virgin. She did have a self-titled debut album before, but Like a Virgin was the one that broke her all the way through to superstardom. In 1986, John Farnham released Whispering Jack. In 1987, Mark Knopfler released the soundtrack to the movie The Princess Bride. In 1987, Elton John also released his Greatest Hits Volume 3 album. In 1989, Frank Zappa released You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore Volume 3. In 1990, Kylie Minogue released Rhythm of Love, and Cilla Black released Cilla's World. In 1996, Blind Melon released their breakthrough album, Nico, and Rod Stewart released If We Fall in Love Tonight. In 1999, the Coors released their MTV Unplugged album called The Coors Unplugged. In 2002, Three Doors Down released Away from the Sun. Matchbox 20 released More Than You Think You Are, which was a big album for them, and Pearl Jam released Riot Act, with the Pretenders releasing Loose Screw. And in 2012, the Rolling Stones released Grrr. Singles that were released on November the 12th include in 1958, when Richie Valens did a twofer. He released his big hits Donna and La Bamba. In 1971, Bob Dylan released George Jackson. In 1975, the Doobie Brothers released I Cheat the Hangman. In 1976, Queen released their big hit, Somebody to Love. In 1979, Kenny Rogers released his big hit, Coward of the County. In 1982, the Pretenders released another one of their big hits, Back on the Chain Gang. In 1984, Paul McCartney released We All Stand Together. In 1986, Madonna released her big hit, Open Your Heart. In 1987, Kiss released Reason to Live. In 2001, Matchbox 20 released Last Beautiful Girl. In 2010, Ellie Goulding released a cover version of Elton John's song, Your Song, which I believe was for a commercial or something along those lines. In 2018, Jenny Kim of Blackpink released Solo, and in 2020, Billie Eilish released Therefore I Am. Before we continue, we'd like to tell you that we've started Season 2 of the Music History In-Depth podcast, where we go more in-depth on some of the events that we mention on this particular podcast. The Music History In-Depth podcast drops every Tuesday on this podcast network. Now, back to the Music History Today podcast. Artists who were born on November the 12th include singer, songwriter, and Rock and Roll Hall of Famer himself, Mr. Neil Young, whose life we go into on this week's Music History In-Depth podcast, among many others, including the life of Joni Mitchell. That episode has already dropped on this network as we speak. Other birthdays to celebrate for November the 12th include singer Tevin Campbell, singer Omarion, David Ellefson of Megadeth, Les McCune of the Bay City Rollers, country music singer Barbara Fairchild, Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, Booker T. Jones of Booker T. and the MGs, singer Brian Hyland, Errol Brown of Hot Chocolate, Brick Smith of The Fall, Pooch Tavares of Tavares, Ruby Nash Curtis of Ruby and the Romantics, John Walker of the Walker Brothers, singer Charlotte Davis, songwriter Mort Schumann, singer Joe Stafford, singer Bucka White, singer Vic Chestnut, singer Omar Rudberg, singer Sundara Park, singer Davina Michelle, rapper YBN Manny, and singer Jason Chen. Artists who unfortunately passed away on November the 12th include opera singer Louis Van Tolder, jazz guitarist Gene Gifford, opera singer Gwen Catley, pianist Gabby Casadesus, orchestra leader Frank Porcel, film and TV theme composer Albert Haig, folk music singer Agnes Buen Garnias, folk music singer-songwriter Johnny Durham, jazz drummer Roy Haynes, and guitarist Jim Tucker of the group The Turtles. Next on the Music History Today podcast, it is November the 13th, when in 2015, A Tribe Called Quest performed for the last time with the lineup that included Phife Dawg.